Welcome, boys and girls, to a dark and spooky program that we at the Run Red Corporation have so selflessly released to you on All Hallows Eve. Tonight, we find out the truth behind the strange disappearance of a local 50 News cameraman and reporter in the famously haunted grounds of Winter Hill. Prepare your popcorn and preferred soft drink for a night of horror and dismay. Welcome to the Disappearance at Winter Hill. Before we step into Winter Hill itself, we must first examine who our brave and noble victims are. First, we have James Dell, an underpaid, glorified temp that only months before this tragic event gained the role of field reporter for some unknown company linked with Local 50 News. This strange promotion was met with surprise by James Dell. He had admitted he wasn't feeling his best that year and shouldn't have received anything close to a promotion. James's paranoia of this was collected by private investigators at his home in Diaries of James Dell went on with vicious detail about the inner workings of his life and his job as an outsourced employee for the news company in Atlanta, Local 50 News. Strangely, after the incident in Winter Hill, all records of him working there were wiped from the system. Why would a respectable company with nothing to hide do this about a couple of low-level employees? Did Local 50 News aim to destroy all evidence of them to escape justice? Were they accountable for the missing reporter and cameraman? Michael Rivet, or as most of his friends call him, Mike Rivet, was also at Winter Hill, accompanied by James Dell to gather footage for the Atlanta News Company. Sadly, the only information leading to this is a partially burned piece of paper, which resembles his diary on the day of his disappearance. The nearly destroyed piece of paper reads, "I am now ready for my trip up to Winter Hill with James. Hopefully, it goes well this time, as the last time we gathered some footage for Atlanta, we nearly died." Unfortunately, the rest is unintelligible. Mike was a recluse, spending most of his time watching old films and occasionally going out with family. The cameraman job for Mike was something part-time to him, as he didn't get paid well for what he did. Local 50 News, however, didn't burn his connection to them, but replaced his role as a part-time journalist in Liverpool. This was not only miles away from his home, but something he never trained for or ever wanted to do for Local 50 News. Did Local 50 News try to cover their tracks with Michael Rivet by changing his occupation to seem like a completely different person? Why would they let him exist in their records? Who was Michael Rivet to Local 50 News? We have managed to retrieve the lost tapes of the actual disappearance and find the cause of
Save us.
We may never know exactly what happened here, but what we can know for sure is the truth will be found, and the men that were lost that horrifying day will have their revenge on who or whatever did this to them. And now, without further delay, the recreation of the tragic events.
Huh? Yeah. On the way to Winter Hill. Should be there shortly. Nearly at Winter Hill. Very sticky. Video. Shut up here. This tower was all the local news, yeah, in England. Well, mostly football in the Manchester area, but it used to relay some other stuff as well. And, yeah, there are some people that still come here, old workers. You know how bad this storm is? The storm is happening all the way in America. Starting from America, coming to England, finishing in France. Horrible. Now you can see the top. Alright, Mike is gonna take some shots of his phone. And, yeah. Transmission power. Powerful. So, all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna get lost and get killed myself. I'm freezing. I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna go all the way to it. I can't see enough place. Fog is awful around here. Man. Minimum wage. Like what, 8 years? 7 years? Nearly 8 years. I think it's 8 years. I think it works. Alright. Yeah. So, not much time in that. Huh. Who's on it? Shit. Found this.
Bolton police investigated the disappearance of these two men until a suspicious organization with links to Chief Maldith aided in closing the investigation prematurely. Not much is known of this organization, but some believe that an outside American corporation had persuaded Maldith to end all efforts leading to the search of James Dell and Michael Rivet. The reason for this persuasion? Still unknown, but the police, specifically Detective Andrew Heschmeyer, proceeded with the investigation in his own time, behind the backs of his peers. Weeks went on with little evidence of the missing men. It had to be presumed that they were deceased, as the harsh environment in the hills of Bolton were deadly without the proper equipment. All that James and Michael had brought with them is a camera, winter jacket, gloves, and the report documents. Winter Hill is well known for its rough terrain and dangerous weather, but would it be enough to kill two men with access to a car and winter clothing? Unfortunately, the results are saddening. A recent survey done in the outskirts of Winter Hill had been collected by Dr. Edgar Rithmore of the Luton Weather Analyst Foundation. He was requested by the presumed deceased families of James Dell and Michael Rivet to conduct this survey to rule out any possibilities of natural disasters. Dr. Edgar Rithmore spent an entire afternoon collecting ground samples and readings of weather patterns in the area of their last location. Only reinforced the fact that the police invested in this matter were not telling the whole truth.
Hello, my name is Dr. Edgar Rithmore of the Luton Weather Analysts Foundation. From what I've seen of Winter Hill, it seems like the sort of place you would go missing, but in actuality, it's just an old transmission tower with rocky hills surrounding it. The soil I sampled there had nothing out of the ordinary present, except some above-average acidity. This is something common with factories close by, but a transmission tower? Something seemed off to me. I mean, what could they have done in a transmission tower that caused the soil to negate all chances of plant growth for decades after it shut down? They must have been dealing with strong chemicals at the time of operation. But why would they have that kind of stuff when all they're doing is transmitting television and radio signals? I read up on other analysts like me who took frequent readings at Winter Hill for some private company at the time of the place starting up and its eventual closing. From the years of 1956, the grounds were lush with usual wildlife and normal weather patterns. But from 1980 to 1988, when the rumours began, the ground became dead, not being able to grow or contain wildlife that had been there for generations. Now, would it be dangerous to humans? Not really. But with continuous exposure to these conditions, an individual may have long-term lasting effects, both physically and mentally. Winter Hill eventually closed due to missing company property, but nearly all of the ex-employees, that is, the ones that survived past the 90s, claimed that it was due to work accidents that resulted in employee deaths. This, of course, is rumour, as all of the people who ever worked in the tower are dead. Now, if you're thinking that the weather conditions present in Winter Hill were dangerous to the reporter and his cameraman, I would say that it wouldn't be hard to lose track of your surroundings in that environment, but killing them? No, certainly not. There was an old tale spread around by the lonely housewives at the time that a beast called the Blood Demon would run around Winter Hill feasting on all those it crossed paths with. They said it was attracted to human blood, almost as if it was its only way for nutrition. Look, I'm not one for spreading stories, but the soil, the dead weeds that remained in the soil, their roots were blood red.
The temperature on that unfortunate day was an average 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which shouldn't have led to hypothermia. The wind, however, was 48 miles per hour. This type of wind could lead to being unbalanced or perhaps causing an individual to fall over. Falling over may not be as dangerous as you think, but Winter Hill has a very rocky terrain at a certain height. One false move, that fall may lead to your grisly death. Not only was the wind a problem for the reporter and cameraman, but the fog, as seen here, was thick and spreading fast. It is well known by those local to Bolton that Winter Hill is the mistiest place there is, since it is so close to the clouds above. Could the unpredictable mist cloud their surroundings so badly they lost track of their car? Did they accidentally drive off the cliff, not knowing where the road began and where it ended? As of today, their car and bodies have never been recovered, but the hunt for the truth is still out there, and waiting to be resurfaced. Thank you all for watching this exclusive documentary on the disappearance at Winter Hill. Did you find the answer you were looking for? Did you realize the mistake they made that put them in the place they're at? Remember not to follow their path and seek the answers in a safe and secure environment. We at hope you all have a very dark and spooky night ahead of you.